Welcome back. Today we're talking about equipment, and I'm going to show you the equipment that I use and recommend if you want to follow my strategy and actually get results on YouTube. If you want to generate leads on YouTube, I'm going to cut to the chase and show you exactly what you need. All right, if I've counted correctly, I've got 10 things that I want to show you that I highly recommend, and it's what I've got myself. This is what I use, and I want to start first off with DSLR cameras. I love the look of this lens, the 24mm. So I recommend start with your phone and start there. That'll work great, but if you want to be able to blur the background and you want to be able to control the lighting settings with more precision, get a DSLR. But if you're going to go that route, you need to learn how to do it. Now, I've made other episodes where I've talked about, and let me list these off. You want to know what the f-stop is, the aperture, okay? You want to know what the shutter speed is and how to control that. You want to know how to control the sensor sensitivity, which is called ISO, and color temperature. Okay, so there's 4 things that you need to learn if you're going to use a DSLR camera. Otherwise, if you think about using any of the automatic settings on this camera, just use your iPhone instead. So I'm actually ready to move on to number 2 already, and that is a lens. Now these 2 lenses right here, they're prime lenses. You can get a higher quality lens for a lower cost if it doesn't zoom. You know, if you have a lens that zooms, that's another awesome feature for a lens to have, but it just makes the cost go way up. And when I say a high quality lens, really I want to be able to blur the background. And there's a feature on these lenses where it's got a really wide aperture. It's called an f-stop of 1.4. So this is a 24mm lens. It doesn't zoom, it doesn't change that. It's always 24mm, but it's got an f-stop of 1.4. This one's also 1.4, but this is a 50mm lens. So this one's wider and this one's more narrow of a shot, and depending on what I'm trying to do, I'll alternate between these lenses. And I've got other lenses, but these are the main 2 lenses that I use. Now the camera that I'm holding is my Canon 80D, but the one that I'm filming on is kind of the newer version of this one. It's the 90D. I love it. I would highly recommend it. Now you can get a Canon 90D. I think it's about $1,200 these days for the camera body. This lens, the 24mm lens, like I described, is about $1,500. So the lens is actually more than the body. I think this lens, it's a really high quality lens. F-stop, like I said, of 1.4, so it can really blur the background. And in fact, that's what we're filming on right now. The camera on this lens needs to be further back to frame the subject the same size. So if you're in tight spaces, you're gonna need to use a wider angle lens. This one though, the cost on it's only $350. It's gone down over the years. I've got a few of these lenses. Okay, so this next one might seem obvious, but I recommend investing in a high quality tripod, something that's reliable, something that's really sturdy. If you're investing money into camera equipment, you want something that's less likely to tip over and something that, you know, will release and move, things that the legs don't get bent and so they get stuck. The brand that I've always used is Manfrotto. There's other good brands out there, but Manfrotto's from Italy. It's a good brand. You can find them on Amazon. And then I always get Manfrotto adapters, and they're just always screwed onto the bottom, because then it's closed here. So if it's open, I can take my camera, just click it right in. When I'm ready to move it, I just unhook it like that, and it's ready to go in the next time. So you notice that I've got, you know, an adapter already ready on this camera right here. So I recommend getting a good tripod, having adapters so you can, you know, change out your camera or change out your tripod. And it sounded like there was something more I was gonna say about that, but I actually wanna tell you about my book before I jump into some other gear. It's a book that I wanna give you for free. If you're here watching this video, you probably want to use YouTube to generate leads for your business. And I've written a book about it. It's taken me 2 years. It's finally launched. It's called A Hero's Guide to Influence on YouTube, and I want to give it to you for free. So I'm not going to make any profit on this, but I am going to charge you shipping. So as long as you'll cover the shipping cost, go to natesyoutubebook.com and that book is yours. So now I'm going to talk about audio. I'm going to talk about these amazing devices and this device right here. So I've been using this Zoom H2N. This became popular. I've been using it for many years before the Zoom service we use for live streaming and group conferences came about, but it's spelled the same way, Z-O-O-M, and the H2N. They've got versions that are smaller and more basic than this. They've got versions that are more robust and capable. This one is right in the middle. I believe it's like $150, and there's several settings. You can, depending on if you want to, right now it's pointing right at me and it would record me right here. And in fact, you can't see it, but I've got one right above my head that I'm using as my backup audio to this lav mic here. The setting that I love to use on this, it's called XY, and I know you can't see this from the distance of the camera, but it makes it directional. So as long as I have it pointing at me, it muffles out the background noise. And let me tell you a story about how effective this microphone is. I was filming with Chris Crone in downtown Salt Lake City. We were on a street right where the tracks train comes by. And I don't know why that train is so noisy, but it squeaks. It's just awful, really, but we've gotten used to it. Well, Chris was interviewing a man on the street, and I was probably 10, 15 feet away from them, filming them. Chris was holding this microphone with a little handle on it. There's a little screw thing you can put a handle in. So he was just interviewing him, kind of like a newscaster would be out on the street, pointing the microphone kind of in the middle between the two of them. Now, when the train came by, I could not hear what they were saying. And I was just thinking, we might not be able to use this footage, but hopeful. Let's see how it turns out. Well, after the fact, I listened to the audio, and yes, you could hear the train in the background, but you could see the train on the camera anyway. So the noise fit in, but it was actually perfectly usable. We could hear the conversation between Chris and this other man. It's a great microphone. Many times we'll use this as primary audio as long as it's just right out of the shot but aiming at me. So I'm assuming you can't see it right now, but you can obviously see my arm. So this, have it as close to you as possible. This is a great microphone to put on a boom arm when you don't want to be wearing a lav mic. Now, if you are willing to wear a lav, and I'm not concerned about hiding this, I know some people will try and use toupee tape or things to hide it under the shirt. I just say, hey, you're wearing a mic, you're on YouTube. But I use these wireless transmitters. So right now, I've got a box just like this in my pocket. So this lav mic is plugged into one of these that's in my pocket, and it transmits to the receiver. And so the camera that's filming me has this right on the top, and you can plug in the end of it right there, and then the receiver actually can fit right in the slot on the top of your camera. So that's the setup I'm actually using to film this episode. So this is my primary audio. I've got the H2N right here, which is my secondary audio. And this is awesome. And it's got battery indicators, so you know if either the transmitter or the receiver is low on battery. And in fact, this is called the Rode Wireless Go 2. Version 2 comes with 2 transmitters with 1 receiver. So I might have a second person or even a second mic that's wirelessly transmitting into the camera like this. I love this setup. These devices are a game changer. So in talking about the Zoom H2N, I do have it on a boom arm. So I'll show you some footage of that right now. So I got a boom arm that's extendable, so you can reach it out to whatever length that you want, and you can adjust it easily. And I had to get an adapter, depending on how you want it to screw into the bottom of your Zoom H2N. There's different adapters so that you can reposition it and make sure it's angled, because you want the microphone to be pointing right at the person. They've really fine-tuned the direction of the audio on this, because it muffles out everything that's not right in front of it. Then I also have the boom arm held up by a C-stand. Now for many years, and we're going to talk about lights in a moment, for many years my lighting, I just used regular light stands, but they're nothing compared to a C-stand. So I'll put on the screen here, I've got a whole collection of C-stands that are really sturdy. I put my lights on them, I put my boom arms for my audio on them, and they're pretty affordable, and they're pretty standard. You go to Amazon, you can search for C-stand, and you'll find some, for 100 to 150 bucks. Okay, now let's talk about lights. And I'm gonna talk about lights in 2 parts: the light itself, the electric device, and also like the reflector. And we use big reflectors called V-flats, which I'm gonna explain and show you what those are. I love them. I've been using V-flats for a long time. The lights that I used in the beginning and for many, many years were soft boxes. In fact, I had soft boxes for many different uses. I had a travel set that I could take on a suitcase on an airplane, and I fit 4 of them in 1 suitcase. But the reason I started using soft boxes is I would watch YouTube videos that I thought, man, those look like they know what they're doing. They look very well lit. I remember I was watching an Apple video and I looked at the reflection in the guy's eye and I could see this rectangle and I'm like, oh, they're using a rectangular softbox. So I got rectangular softboxes and I found them that had, nowadays they have dimmer switches for LED and that's way better. Back when I started, LED wasn't as prevalent yet. And so I would get softboxes that had 5 different bulbs and therefore 5 different switches. So if I wanted a lower lighting setting, I would just turn on 1 bulb or then increase it to 2 or 3 or all the way up to 5. And I could even take off the screen if I needed to make it even brighter. A softbox is great because it really softens the light. And a big softbox isn't as direct and having a point of reflection, but it will make the light smooth across your face. And the closer that softbox is to you, the softer that light will be. Now, softboxes are cheap. You can go to Amazon right now and get a set of 3 of them that come with light stands and pay 120 bucks, 200 bucks, somewhere in that range. And nowadays, you don't need to get multiple light bulbs. You can get an LED that's got a dimmer switch. So that's very handy. Now I'm gonna talk about V-flats first before I come back and show you the lights that I use now, and I'll talk about why I use them and absolutely love them. So a V-flat, as you can see here, it's just a big reflector panel. I'm gonna try and show you a lot of different angles so you can actually see what this is. It's difficult with the lighting because they reflect the light. So I actually make these, and how I do that is I buy these panels. They're 4x8 sheets of foam board, foam core. One side is white, one side is black. Occasionally I'll use black if I need to shade something or darken something or film on black, but most of the time, I'd say 95% of the time, I'm using the white side as a reflector. And I'll tape 2 of them together with gaff tape. I'll use white gaffer tape on the white side and black on the black and black around the edges. As you can see here, I put it around the edges just so I can toughen them up. We fold these up and move them around, take them around hallways up and down stairs. And so they can get bumped, and if you put gaff tape on the edges, it makes them tougher and last longer. But the tape that's in the middle acts as a hinge, and so you can fold it in half so it's a 4x8 panel, or if you open it up, it's like an 8x8 reflector. Imagine having a softbox that was 8 feet by 8 feet, and that's essentially what we have. And so I've been using V-flats like this for a long time. I learned it from a photography trainer, and she was using a variety of different lights. So I just used the soft boxes that I had. I would aim several soft boxes at it and then reflect the light back. The one disadvantage that I had is if I put multiple, let's say I needed really bright light shining on me and I put 3 soft boxes aiming at the V-flat, those soft boxes are big and they actually block a lot of light that's reflecting back. And so now I'll transition to talking about these aperture lights. This company is amazing. By the way, they're LED lights, which use way less energy, they're very quiet, and they are way more powerful. The settings for these lights right now are probably in the range of 10 to 20%. When we're competing with sunlight, we turn them up to 50, or if we're aiming it at the ceiling, we're really trying to light a room, we'll go up to 100%. But there's times where I'm filming in dim light where I've used all the way down to 1%. They're so fine-tuned and adjustable, and the profile is small. So I can have a really powerful light shining at a V-flat, and it basically replicates a window. Because I've learned that I love filming in front of a window where the subject is facing the window, let's say, and it just puts such great light that's balanced on the subject and you look great. Well, with a V-flat and a powerful aperture 300D Mark II, you can simulate and basically replicate a window. And in this room right now where I'm filming here, I've actually got 2 different V-flats. I'm bouncing light off of it so it makes it soft, and I love that. And so these are my go-to lights. They're not cheap. When I used to film in Airbnbs, a client would fly into Utah. I'd rent a vacation home as my filming studio. We'd have that space for a couple of days so we could film there. And just because we're moving things around, I took soft boxes. They were so cheap that if they got ruined or whatnot or banged up, I didn't care so much. But when I purchased houses to use as my filming studio, I then upgraded my gear and I haven't been disappointed. I've got a dozen of these aperture 300D Mark IIs. Whenever we have a conversation about gear, there are always lots of questions, and I'd love to hear them and I'd love to answer them this Saturday. So go ahead and submit those questions to me. Go to asknate.net. And there's just a quick form where you put your question in and it all gets added to a list that I will have on Saturday during our live stream. So I'm doing a Q&A as a part of this whole series this month to help you learn and master YouTube. So we will see you on Saturday.